but truth is forever. And that truth is something that every human being wants. It's the happiness, it's the infinite wealth that people think they want, money and things, but we've seen doesn't satisfy. Jobs, fame, name, none of it really, if you ask most of the people who have that, they still want more.
Welcome to a Curious Yogi podcast. I'm your host, Bobby, joined by living masters and awakening friends. I'm so delighted you're here. Now let's get curious. Hey, curious yogis, and welcome back. Before we dive into today's delightful conversation, I have a little update on how we gather together online. So I'm officially pivoting away from Patreon for multiple reasons and bringing everything home to my brand new online practice community. Think of this as your one-stop curious yogi space for our monthly satsangs, meditation, pranayam, weekly yogasana sessions, and special courses like the Bhagavad Gita reading group happening right now. So all of this will be under one roof. I'm doing a slow rollout, but I am super committed to continuing to build this dedicated Curious Yogi online community. So you can still support the podcast and get right into the monthly satsang for as little as $8 a month, or join me for an all-access Yog Sadhana practice membership to practice with me live every week. So head over to bobbypaydell.com/community to join and learn more. And I have one more announcement. Did you know that we have 2 amazing Yog Sadhana retreats open for booking right now? We're heading to Norway for 4 days this September to soak in the crisp mountain air and deep stillness. And we have only 5 rooms left for our Sri Lanka retreat happening this coming February. So if your heart is calling for practice, nature, community, satsang, then reach out and snag one of those rooms. Now for today's episode, I am so overjoyed to introduce you to a very dear friend and fellow seeker, Ritambhara. Reta is someone who has truly dedicated her life to the art of turning inward, exploring meditation not just as a technique, but as a doorway to discovering who we actually are beneath all the noise of the mind and the world. So in this chat, we lean into what it means to travel the world looking for answers, only to realize that the freedom we are seeking is already right there, right here, sitting quietly within us. We talk about overcoming the mind and the power of real satsang, as well why good company makes all the difference on this path. So enjoy this satsang talk, this intimate heart-to-heart with a true friend. It's such an honor to get to share these special conversations with you. So enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, so welcome, Reta, to a Curious Yogi podcast.
Thank you.
It's amazing. I am so excited to have this conversation because, as I mentioned to you already many times, you are one of my best friends. And I just think it's so amazing to have someone like you in my life who always stands for the highest. And I've known, like, through all the years that I've known you, if at any point I'm struggling in the world, I can call Reta and you will just bring my attention to the highest. And I feel like that's the best friend you can have in the world. So I just want to start by appreciating you and giving you all my love just for taking this time, not only in this hour, but for always supporting me and everything that I do, and mostly supporting me in my sadhana. So biggest praise to you, Jeho Ritambhara.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Bobby, Garima. Wow. I just love you a lot. And I just remember from the moment you met Swamiji, you just knew that your life was to fulfill the purpose of knowing who you were. And you've done that so beautifully. And over the years, I'm the one who gets the benefit when ever we do get together, it's just satsang truth. And just that is the highest. And what you've created with these podcasts, well, asking me to do it, I actually listened to several of them. And I thought, this is amazing. It's the best company, and you've created satsang for yourself. So I just think it's such a wonderful way to be able to continue your sadhana, your truth of who you are and what you really want the highest at every moment. And it happens. And you give to all the people who listen. And hearing the stories is just a great inspiration and love for the truth all around. So I thank you. And I thank Guru for just giving us both that awareness.
And also giving us the situation where we have the, like you said, inspiration and the situations where we can have satsang happening
Exactly.
at all times. So
But
it's
you
amazing.
created that. So
Well, I feel like I have and yet I haven't, like when the space is holding everything, it's such a sahaj space, like Zinya and
yes,
I at lunch were talking about this amazing Sanskrit word, sahaj, the effortless space, how,
ease.
we think like being yogis in the modern world and like we have so much we feel we have to do and achieve, but actually the gift of making, or not even making, realizing that sadhana is effortless and it's the natural way for the seeker. So
It's beautiful. And that is very true. And I think that is what we help each other with. And coming to see that we're already that. That's a big part of the ease. If when the covering seems to be there and we think that we're identified too much with being a person, then I think just knowing that our true nature is pure, free forever gives us the starting point to, hey, pause, relax, call a friend if you need to, go to satsang, find good company, and meditate and do all the things that help that, but coming, as you said, from the space of, I'm already that, so I'm a little uneasy, but that's called the mind, and it'll pass. It comes and goes.
yeah. Well, I feel like, okay, even just because it's so easy to jump right into satsang, which I love, and I know we're going to just continue that thread. But for those that are listening, to give them a little bit of context into who my amazing friend is today. But I really, you are a master because you've devoted your entire life to meditation, to living and studying this truth and this lifetime exploration of who you are, as you said before, whether you're Ritambhara or Reta May, it's actually irrelevant, but so unique and rare is someone who devotes their whole entire life since you were a very young age to living this path. So just for those that are listening, what has this journey been? Did you always feel like this curiosity seeking inside of you, searching for who you were? Or how did you sort of spark up into becoming a meditator for life?
First of all, I don't think I did it. Somehow, if we're open to what life has. And yeah, I was right from the beginning. I couldn't have my mother's milk because I resisted. I wouldn't take milk. I almost passed. And then I didn't want to go to school. I stayed out as long as I could, created a big fuss. And finally, and even when I started, every day I would get a little bit ill, seriously, before I would go. My breakfast and everything. And then finally, I conformed. I became teacher's pet. I became a really good student. And I did everything that I thought was good. I was brought up as Jewish, but in a very mixed community. I might be the only Jewish child in my class, but that was so good for me because my parents were also really good. And that gave me a oneness with everybody that I met, basically. And when I graduated high school, I remember them saying she's a part of all that she's met. And I thought that was really nice for a while. But there was something driving me. And I went to university and even became a teacher in the middle of Toronto, inner city, for 5 years, taught children. I was in youth groups previously, traveled with those youth groups. I always was around children, and I had a pretty good life. But something was always not enough. And so traveling was one of the ways that I started to try to learn more and expand. And I took a year off teaching, and that was important. I was going to be coming back to a new situation, either a new school or creating my own with some friends. And I went to England and London and then Scotland, and I did art courses. And in between, I had already traveled all around many, many countries. But what I found is the baggage always comes in your head, like your mind.
Wherever you go, there you are.
That's it. Exactly. I know you know that because you also use traveling as a way of learning. And I met beautiful people, all kinds of different people. And I was never stuck with who they were on any form level that much. I somehow was intuitively would know who I liked and who I didn't. And it usually was pretty good. But still, and I was about 26, 27, and I was going to be coming back to a new school and teaching. And I was in Scotland with a pretty spiritual group. I won't go into the details, but I was dancing New Year's Eve. But something in me, tears started coming. And I just said to very good friends, I need to find myself. And just before I had left for this journey, I won't go on too long, but I was home helping my parents, and who turned out to be my Upa guru, my link to guru. He had lived across the street from me my whole life, but at 14, he disappeared, and I left a little bit later, so we hadn't seen each other in years. But one day, just before he was off to India, and I had just arrived home, we talked. And he talked to me, unlike apparently that he didn't do with many people, in his backyard, and told me about his teacher, Swamiji. And I listened. I knew a little about yoga, but I took it in, and I just sort of nonchalantly said, well, maybe I'll decide to come to India. He probably thought I never would, but he said, sure. And when that happened on New Year's Eve, when I just felt like I have to find myself, I said, I think I'm going to go to India before going home. And the rest is pretty much history. I came here on my own without knowing anybody, came up here to Kulu on a bus with landslides, and God knows how I did it, because I was always pretty careful, even though I was adventurous. And when I came, I thought I'd go off with some Canadians climbing, but I never went anywhere. I stayed here, and the rest is history. Yeah.
What year was that when you came to
That
first?
was, I think, 76.
Wow.
76.
Well, now it's 2006.
I
So
know
that's
it's
a
almost
while ago.
50 years, but it's like I did go back,
Yeah.
and I had family that drew me back because I loved them a lot. And Swamiji was very much into us not thinking we could escape the world. And nobody can. Your world is actually right here. And that I came to understand as time went on. And that the minus of my world expanded into the space of knowingness of the whole. And that was part of the journey which happened in my first trip. Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. But I think that's an important part, like, of the story to remember is like that we all have ideas about where we think, like that moment where you said, I need to find myself. I think every single person listening to this talk will have had at some point some kind of a feeling like that, where we long to know who we are. But you're right, like the habit or the sort of the way that's been demonstrated to the human being is to find that in finding meaning being a parent, or finding it in the job, or finding it in that beautiful new house, or like the list
Exactly.
goes on. But like you're so right, like, how Swamiji put everybody into situations to be in the world and says, no, that's actually not where the freedom lies.
Yeah, and he treated each being in front of him differently. Like I already had done a lot. I'd been a student, teacher, all these things, so that I was pulled back by my family, and luckily I had some money, saved from what I'd done. But each person who came in front of him, and I think you're right, the journey of each person is so unique. It really is. And he had the ability, because he is you, like I'm speaking to you as if there's I and you, but the truth is, it's one being. And that's why we get along so well and love each other, because that love is based on the recognition of who we really are, the source. And that source opens, everybody is that. But the conditioning, when I first arrived here, Swamiji said, oh, she's very cultured. And I thought that was great. Well, later I learned that somewhat what he meant, not that I needed to drop it, but it's not enough. The culturing is how we've been brought up. And every person has a unique story. And Swamiji knew how to pierce the heart, I can say, or the being of each one who came in front of him, to bring out the sameness, to bring out the fact that we're all human beings, but we're all more also than human beings. And the covering, the story, those kinds of things are not the essence of who we are. And he really showed me the essence. And I think that's why we can't settle easily for a lot of things that look like in the world they're going to give you the satisfaction. But in fact, satisfaction isn't always what you want. It's knowing who you are. And that's a big work. But I do think that all the people listening to your podcast, they want that. And we do know it. Nature, so many things in the world, you get these kind of glimpses of the fact that we're just one being, the source. It has many manifestations, but they all change. But from that who we really are is unchanging. And that was the essence and kernel of the teachings I found. of Swamiji. They weren't just teachings, the direct experience.
Which then he gave like you all these years, many years, and me for some years now.
For sure.
When we talk about the direct experience, of course, there is that experience of being in the company of a realized being, which is a very, like, it's the treasure of a lifetime if one can ever have that experience or that direct experience. But also, can you speak a little bit about Swamiji's legacy of meditation and that,
Yes.
like, the freedom that lies in how to have that direct experience of who we truly are?
Yes, I can. For me, I was very open. After I made the decision that I wanted to stay here, I was meditating a lot, and I had a very powerful direct experience, which he'd already given my name, Ritambhara, but it is a very high samadhi state. He told me, he wrote to me that in meditation, I had reached that direct experience. But my system couldn't hold it because I was still an individual trying to hold on to something. And in the moments when the direct experience comes through meditation, sometimes people have had them in many different ways. I think, like you said, many people have these kind of flashes of that, some for longer, whatever it is, and you miss it when it's not there, which is actually a good thing. Because even though that's what happened with me in a certain way, because it was as if Reta united with the space. And, I wrote a poem which was like the Upanishads. I heard without ears, I saw without eyes. But if you don't have that moment to moment, and I think that's where the sadhana, the practice. So whether you go from as if having a direct experience or you think you're working towards one, ultimately there's no shortcuts for the everlasting, unchanging space that is free from birth and death, which the beginning and the end as if of a human life. And we're pure space. But at the moment of a beginning, which is actually the birth, so-called, at that time, we get covered through the whole life in a different way. And that actually is illusory or changing. And I say that because it can't last. It doesn't last. But truth is forever. And that truth is something that every human being wants. It's the happiness. It's the infinite wealth that people think they want money and things, but we've seen doesn't satisfy. Jobs, fame, name, none of it really, if you ask most of the people who have that, they still want more.
And then ultimately, everybody, whether you have money or not, we all go to the grave or to the burning tire.
No hole in the... No money in the pocket, some expression.
So it's like those things don't bring us satisfaction. And ultimately, like all those things on the level of the world, they're not going to bring us to that beautiful space that you're describing, that space of meditation.
And then you're asking me, how then? But that is sadhana, and what we call sadhana. And we sometimes say the aspirant is the sadha, the person who is striving or working towards that perfection, that unchanging being. And Swamiji gave us so many ways. And first of all, It was his very presence. And I think that's what we love in satsangis, is the vibration that actually knows that there's more and knows that truth and is that truth. And so in order to live it moment to moment, the meditation is probably key. Good company, which is what you're providing for myself and so many others, is also people who have that uniqueness of wanting to know their truth and knowing they are that, and maybe wanting to share it and keep it lit, you know? Also, Swamiji used so many techniques. His Satsang channel, all the books, but again, he made them come alive. And so, even though there's all these scriptures, the words of a realized being contain all those scriptures, and especially if they have the gift of being able to really articulate that knowledge. And then he was a poet, Swamiji, so he wrote thousands of songs, and each song was a flavor of the mind and then the space and how the mind can get absorbed in its truth. And where it gets caught, all the emotions, and there's nothing right or wrong with what has to pass through us, but let it go, let it come without getting caught in it or entangled, and just keeping the attention on the Sakshi, the witness, the one who knows, the knower, which he is not the knower of just things and forms, but the knower of the mind, of the intellect and ego. And that's so valuable. And those songs, I love them. And he gave me, even when I was in Canada, he said, learn a song every day, the meaning of the song, sing the songs because it's like pranayam. And I never was attracted that much to formal pranayama, although I did do it for sure. And that's another method. So he had a way of putting people in the kind of yoga training, you can call it, of the mind that would suit them. If they were really devotional, some people got into puja. I did too at times. I think what Raj Yoga, which is the highest yoga, which kind of brings all the other yogas of action or karma, bhakti, of dhyan, and gyan. Gyan is very important.
Raj Yoga is all the sort. I know Raj is king; it's the highest of the yogas, but it encompasses all the yogas essentially because it's kind of getting more to the essence of all yoga.
Yes, and I saw that being used. He didn't let us get trapped. And when I say he, you're a higher self, because each being has that guru inside. Not inside or outside, is that. And if we can listen to it and the knower, then we come to see what we need at each moment. And I think that is something really important.
Right. Like when you were speaking, I was thinking of a question, like for those that are on the path of sadhana, like you said, the sadhak or the aspirant, the one who is really desiring to know who we are. And I'm, speaking of myself and also many people listening, it's like, is it like we are sort of having two, even though I know it's one reality, not even I know. It's like, okay, let me think.
Do know.
Let me think of how to articulate this question. It's like, like you said, there's no shortcuts, and like we're on the path, and it's a path, it's a whole path, it's a journey. It's like our life's work of this delightful, joyful, like adventure into who we are. It's like,
Beautiful.
it feels like you're like an explorer in the, that's what it feels like. So in one way, that's a part of the sadhana and all the different ways that you said that we can sort of, like elevate our sadhana. And at the same time, we have the gyan, the knowledge that it's all one reality, that unborn, unchanging,
Beautiful.
undying essence that you talked about. So it's like, it's kind of almost funny in a way, because we have the knowledge and the awareness and the ideal of the realized being, the scriptures that were spoken from the sages. The knowledge is there. So we have the knowledge of unborn. And yet we're working to realize it and imbibe it, like you said before, moment to moment. So it's like these two, like it's one reality, it's one happening, it's one being, and yet it's like we know and then we almost don't know. So what is that of like the mind of the human being, and then it's like mixed?
Well,
If that was clear at all.
no, it is clear.
You're the
because
mixture.
no, we aren't the mixture, but we sometimes think we're the mixture.
Yeah.
Because in fact, Ritambhara, which is the name that Swamiji gave me, is that which can know both sides of that and see that they're still mental if they're on the mind level. Like they will be, I know, I don't know. I know, I don't know. But you're the knower of both. And I remember one of the first writings, Swamiji, he made himself the questioner and the answer, gave the answer. So he was using me, and I said, well, you said you know the truth and you know the answers to all the questions. And he said, yes. And I said, well, this was in the 70s. Do you know about computers? And he said, no. And I say, but you said you know everything. And he said, I know that I don't know. So I don't have to he then brought it to all those techniques. He mentioned some of them, meditation, and said the knower, which is revealed as the space, the source, our truth, is, say, it can be, sometimes he would say, listen to your highest voice. And it's not really a speaking voice. It's that one who knows that whether they know or don't know, they're the same. Like, meaning who you are does not depend on the mental truth or pairs of opposites or the contradiction that the mind can make, if that makes.
It does, and you kind of mentioned also before a little bit about like the sakshi and like the knower, as Swamiji beautifully gave that word, or the watcher, the knower space. And it's about identifying with the one who knows, rather than the one who's entangled in knowing or not knowing.
Beautiful, exactly. And today it was mentioned nitya adhyas, and it's your identification should be eternally nitya, not with just the body and mind. We don't have to negate it. We're sitting here like this, and it's beautiful. Yet the real identification that is the truth, not going to, is the truth, is that eternal nitya adhyas. And that the abhyas is the practice. And the practice of nitya, the eternal, as opposed to the practice of I'm Reta. And I have this story that I took time telling. And yet that story, there's everybody here is a book. And it's beautiful, but we want to get to the essence. As Swami would say, the words in the book are just ink. And in the same way, the words that we speak, what's the source? Like of this form and your form of my speaking and your speaking. They look like separate. But when we really use the jnana, use the atma vichar, which is more than just ordinary thinking, and get to the essence, then that is the one being. And that is where the bliss, when that's perfected, like everything else is great, but it's kind of below standard of knowing who you are and that you're you're free from the fear of birth and death, of changing, of being good, being not so good, being like this or like that, or me thinking, the speaking, is it what I could be saying or would be,
Yeah.
And I think that's where we don't have to ignore all that, but let's get in touch with the truth. And then from the meditation, from that, we get to know what's needed at every moment. If that, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Because it's also then like such a good reminder as to why and how the meditation practice just like continues, because inevitably we have to, first of all, wake up in the morning, never mind wake up from meditation, which is like we like every night we go to sleep, Bobby goes away, and then in the morning Bobby comes back, and it's like now again to meditate and like establish oneself in the state of yoga as the starting point, like here,
Beautiful.
like
That's it.
and get into that knower space, or not get into it, but have the recognition of that space and eyes closed, and then open the eyes, because like, and maybe it's too just the age that I am, I'm like in my working era, worldly era, and just thinking of people who are listening that are like, we have to be involved in the world. Of course. But it's like how to be involved. And this is my eternal question. And I'm sure people ask Swamiji this like millions of times in all the different ways. But like how to keep that space when your eyes are open, when you're in like a non-desirable situation, when you're in bad company, or like all these things that happen. Of course, if they happen, we get affected. It's a reminder, forgot the self, go back to the self, but also we're moving in the world, and it's so kind of crazy, like how to just remain as the Sakshi. Or is it like the Sakshi is there, the self is there, the knower is there? Now I'm just like train of thought thinking
I like
out loud.
it.
Like the knower is there no matter the knower is the all permeating essence. It's the underlying reality of everything. Therefore, if Bobby gets affected or not affected, the truth alone is. But how does Bobby manage in the world? That's the kind of the forever question.
Yeah, I think even we say the world, and it is, I've been there even over these number of years and had to be in many different situations, here or there. It's kind of the meditation and these techniques, even if we seem to feel we get caught, I think the sthiti is the constancy, like you said, of keeping up the practice lets us let go of things faster. I think even if we have the perfect situation, it's like the yogi who goes to the cave thinking he's escaping the world and the fly drives him, he gets caught up in that. So I think really recognizing that I've been in sort of what the mind would call serious situations here or there, like in Kulu or India or not in India. And sometimes when something you really get caught up, you think, I'll never get caught up about anything small again. I mean, I really see it. But it doesn't quite work like that. But what does happen if you keep, it is knowledge that works, the truth. And the surety of that, if you keep that even, and the faith in that, somehow it changes again. And what you thought you would never come out of is gone, and something else happens. So I think each moment is a gift, even when it gets difficult, because then you really, complacency can also be a trap. And so we saw that even in Kulu, where as long as you believe the mind, I won't say there is or isn't a mind, but you believe it to be true, you're going to have some difficulty. So it's like recognizing that I am the master of the mind, not I as Reta, but that knowingness, that space that I am meditating on, that purity that I really am, that's going to give me strength. And also there are techniques, like I remember sometimes I'd be listening in the West and with company that was not at all my choice, and I could just be inside sometimes saying, Sham, Amaram Hum, or just also as we get stronger, just the way Swami could, we see the love and the beauty and the desire in everyone to be that. And so you don't have to be talking high knowledge of satsang, but you just kind of tune in to where that being is at as much as you can and create ease and joy. And when that can't happen, we do have the discrimination to run away. He would sometimes say, just go to the washroom, take a break, do something that just gives you that moment to pause. And pause is important, which means just slowing down. Like I say that to myself now, as the body gets older, like, no, you don't need to rush. You just like, dire, which means slowly, slowly. And he used to say to me, Reta, don't say hurry. Say Hari, Hari, Sham. Hari is the name of God. So, all these tips that we give each other, and just a smile sometimes, and the joy. I love walking sometimes, and just the people here anywhere, they can look so stern. In the West, it's a bit harder, perhaps. But here, you just smile, and all of a sudden, they're a different person, and you're both just connecting like that.
Yeah, like it's beautiful what you said. I loved when you said, like, even the situations that can feel hard are an opportunity, and that the world is really the mind. It's what you said right at the beginning, like when you came here and you came along, like that the world is the mind. So that through the practice of meditation and through our sadhana, it's like changing our relationship to the mind. First of all, not thinking that this mind is who I am, that this personality is who I am, this world is out to kind of get me or save me. It's kind of the general thought, but actually to see that who's the master of it, like
Beautiful.
you said, because you said that the space, if we know that that space is the force behind everything that happens, then we know whatever is happening is coming from that space, whether the mind calls it good or the mind calls it bad, but it's actually all coming from there. And also then it makes it like less real. Like
Exactly.
you can see the kind of impermanence,
Very important.
which then helps to take it lighter almost. Like it's not so heavy, and it's a little bit more light to sort of see it through the veil,
I love that. That's beautiful. And I think the authenticity gets less. Like, don't put your authenticity into the mind and the world. The world is the world. We're not going to change it. It's not supposed to be any different than it is. But if you know who you are, even in the midst of chaos, which the world is going to present, it just is like that. That's the nature of the mind. And yet, getting to know that nature and not believing it, it's almost like starting to watch a show. Oh yeah, here I go again. You know? And am I going to go down that rabbit hole? And sometimes you do, and sometimes, you change quickly. And even if you don't, you remain you, and you're everlasting. And that gets nourished and strengthened by the sadhana. And then you can let go of the good and the bad because it changes. So if you can recognize that, yeah.
It's such an attractive, way. And I think even when I came into this space, 12 years ago now, almost exactly 12 years ago, I really felt like something that attracted me. Of course, Swamiji obviously was the main attraction for me, but just to see like you said, when you meet the people on the path and just to like see the brightness in the eyes of like the power of living a sattvic yogic life in whatever individual way, but like a life that is in service of oneness and is in service of happiness and harmony. And I think, like when I came, it was kind of like you want to go out and sort of save the world. And then you kind of come into the space of meditation and meditators. And it's like, yeah, like it begins with me. And then when everybody is in that space, it's like the ripples out are like rippling out, rippling out, rippling out. So I feel like I sort of arrived at like ground zero, ground one, and that's what attracted me, just like what you're talking about, how to move through the world. Because naturally, when we have that sthiti, I love that you used that word, in knowing who we are in that knower space, then naturally, actually, it doesn't get better. Of course, we all end up again in the ground or on the ashes, but like it does somehow, like since starting my sadhana, life does get easier. Also, that's not the goal, but it's sort of like the like bonus.
Yeah. And it's very important because if you come from who you are, you're not only a service to anybody you meet in whatever way, small or big, but also to yourself. And the result will be that ease and bliss. But you can't ignore either side because it's one. Like ultimately, when the mind gets absorbed in the source, we then can say, well, the world got absorbed because our mind, yogaschit vritti narod, the mind got absorbed in its own source. And that doesn't mean we won't function. Nothing's going to change except like what you described, the ease and the bliss and the ability to remain more even.
What's that one verse from the Gita? Like, is it yoga karma sukashalam? Like or is it, when like you're established in yoga, then sort of everything you
Yes.
sort of like actually you can function almost better?
Totally. Because if you think about it, whatever you're doing, if your mind is full of your own, like if you can clear your mind, you have so much to give. Or if your mind is clearing, it means you're absorbed in the knowledge of oneness, the vision of oneness, then there's no division. And so it's not like you ignore what's going on here, but you also have the extra energy or the ability. He would say ability development, extra power to see who's in front of you and give whatever is needed or not needed, and it's beautiful. I think that if the whole world could tune into that, there would not be as much difficulty, but it starts here. It's an individual work. And so it's for me to become what peaceful and easy, and that just naturally communicates.
Well, I would definitely say you reached the natural, easy state
Oh, wow.
from my point of view, definitely.
Well, I think you're doing really, really well because this girl does so much.
Too much.
You
maybe.
do. Yeah, but that's part of it then, being able to, naturally, you'll be able to discriminate what needs to be sieved out. And that is the whole work, even of sieving the real from the unreal, and really being able to, that will tell you what's below standard, what don't I need to do. And the world tricks you, like, being a writer, being a musician, doing all this, doing all that. And we have been taught that it's so important. And some of it, yes, but the most important thing is, where is all that coming from? And the source, and am I easy, and do I know who I am? And we're that beautiful, blissful space of Amaram Ham Maduram Ham. That's our real name. And that just means we're immortal, we're blissful. Now, it's certainly not these bodies. So when we meditate, we get closer and take a dip in that which is, I can say, beyond, but it doesn't mean that this is going to disappear at all. But we take that dip in the purity. And I think that's so valuable.
I love that using that word to describe our meditation practice, the dipping, and that analogy of the saffron robe.
That's it.
How, like, for those that are listening, like, I don't know the whole tale, but the sannyasi in India wears the saffron robe, the big long, like 6 meters, I think, fabric or something like that.
Yes.
And to dye that whole cotton strip, they dip in the saffron, then let it dry. Dip in the saffron, let it dry. And that's how slowly that big long fabric gets saturated by that dye.
Beautiful.
And it does feel like the more years or days go by that I meditate, I do feel like somehow from the inside out, like the awareness is like permeating in this like
beautiful,
slow, but like also subtle, but very tangible way that it changes the person because the being is becoming illuminated. And that feels like such a gift to have learned from Swamiji and from all of the friends here who have been with Swamiji for so many years, that like that's the power of meditation and why we love to close our eyes and meditate.
It's true.
Yeah.
I love what you're describing, and it is so true. And it doesn't have to be a long time that we do that. Even a few minutes. Even just speaking of it, like the way you just did and the way we are, it just sort of brings us to that stillness. And then from there, we just take a pause or a little dip. And then what's next? Whatever is needed, And it does accumulate. So I think the regularity, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half hour, even just closing our eyes, Swami would say, the moment you close your eyes, that space is you. And that is so beautiful, just to recognize, even for a moment.
Mm.
And then the thoughts might come, but the canvas is you. You've already created the canvas,
Mm.
and then the thoughts can come and go
I love
and
that.
remain.
What he said, that when you close the eyes, that's you. And it just brings me back to like Ritambhara or Rita May back then dancing in Scotland, crying, saying, I need to find myself. And how many of us have felt that way in the world, and actually that finding ourselves is just a matter of closing our own eyes, and like it's like we close those eyes and then the inner awareness opens, and then it's like we're right there.
Exactly. You didn't need to travel anywhere,
Yeah.
but that's also beautiful. It doesn't negate, but you're already that pure, free, forever being. And that's where we started. And there's one of the Gita verses of Yaktadini Bhutani. You were that before you were born. You're that in the middle, and when the body ends. So why are you so concerned with appearance and disappearance of the body, of the thoughts, of anything? Because you're forever the same. Like there's no break. That unbroken space of who we are is always there. And I think that is what you described when you close your eyes. And then whatever comes or goes, he would say it's like children playing.
Mhm.
And it is a play of that beautiful self. And ultimately, it's just pure
Mhm. Beautiful.
when the show's over.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Well, I've loved this conversation. I've loved just having satsang with you. I know that the listeners are going to get so much benefit from it. And just to finish up, I like to ask one final question. So at this point in your sadhana, many years in now, uh, are you still curious about anything?
I'm curious about who you have on your podcast. I'm going to be. And I think if we look at it, when you know it's all you, that's amazing. So it's all such a joy. And the freshness of that every moment, I think I would be curious about all of it, just watching. And these days, I love it with all the I call young beings who are just bubbling up in the world, and here in Kulu with that truth. And I just remain so curious watching how they expand, and the way that it comes can be very different from my journey, but the result of who we are remains the same. And to see the variety, I think curiosity will never leave us.
And I love the word that you used, freshness, because it is
Oh,
totally fresh and inspiring and beautiful.
very inspiring. And you know that I love talking to you and so many other just wonderful beings who are coming to know the truth in themselves so beautifully, and balancing as if not making the division, because I made a lot of division once I came here of what is world and what's not world, or where I wanted to be. And that division slowly melts away. And that's marvelous.
I think I'm still like waiting for the division to
Well,
melt away more.
Yeah, well, you also we have the power to choose
Mm-hmm.
gyan over agyan. good company over not so good company, and we have all those opportunities which tuning into our purity comes quite easily, and we get that discrimination. And that's really what Ritambhara is, and what I keep working or knowing and practicing. And Swami said practice is knowing, moment to moment, that your only purpose is to be at peace.
Beautiful. What a great mic drop or big bow on a beautiful conversation. So just
You're beautiful.
Amaram Hum, Madaram Hum, and JJ Swamiji for creating this beautiful happening and place where we can all just gather and speak this beautiful knowledge.
Well, one more thing.
Okay.
Garima, you're such a joy. And you make it very easy, Bobby, for everybody to just shine. And that is your power of the self, which you've nourished and you keep nourishing. So I love it.
I love it too. Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider supporting the podcast at bobbypaydel.com/community. And please follow, subscribe, and leave a review. It really helps the show reach more people. Let's stay curious, connected, and keep walking the path together. In total delight, this is Bobby signing off until next time.